Okay, it's going to do some beaver trapping under the ice. I'm standing on top of the house. You can see the frost. That's their breather hole. Okay. Then, you can see right here beside Matt, there's a feed pile. A bit of a gap right here. And a second part of the feed pile. So, all beaver houses always have a main channel going out under the feed pile. So right there will be a run, and or right beside that willow, right there. But those ones are always a pain in the butt because they're covered in sticks and logs and they're hard to get at. So what you do in the winter, you don't even worry about the runs in the house off to the side here. Underneath this feed pile, they built this up when there was open water. So what happens is now, as the winter progresses, they're chewing under the ice, and it's actually hollow under there to a certain degree. And that's the food that they're eating. So if you go right on the edge of the feed pile and you cut down, it's January, mid-January now, there'll actually be no sticks under there. So what you do is you set right along the edge of the feed pile. Beavers typically come out, go around the feed pile, come back in, or out this way around the feed pile and back in. Okay? I never use traps, 330s under the ice, because these beavers are always swimming with branches. They don't move a lot. They don't just go for a swim. They don't do a lot of movement. They'll take the log out that they were just chewing on, grab a new one, bring it back in. And any beaver swimming swims with the log in front of them. And if you do have a trap there, you snag it. And then you have fun trying to chop the ice, trying to pull out literally sometimes 8-10 foot logs. So what I always do is I use a snare pole on a green pole, which we're going to set up. So we got the chainsaw there, the axe, a shovel, a couple green poles. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole right in the center, right there, and then we're going to pick one off to the side, probably right here. I think that's the deeper water there. So we'll cut a hole here and a hole here with the chainsaw, and then I'll show you how to set them. Okay, another way to find runs under the ice is you take an axe, spud, anything metal, heavy, and you bang it. You'll listen to the sound. As the beavers go in and out, they leave bubbles. It freezes in the ice, and there are actually hollow spots in there. And the hollow ice sounds different. Sometimes you'll actually bust through with a spud, it's that thin. But just listen, I hope the camera will pick it up. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but right here it's hollow. There's air in the ice. And you see we shoveled it off, but it's all slushy ice. You can't see bubbles in there. But just by banging on it, you can hear it. So that's another trick. Okay, let's cut a hole. Okay, so when I cut with the chainsaw, I made the edges beveled a bit. If you try going straight, every single time you go to pull that ice out, you won't be able to. You can see she's free. Now what the trick is, trying to get the axe in to get underneath it. Break one more. There we go. Once you get it started, then it gets easier. Alright, in the summer, spring, whatever, feel for your run where it gets deepest, See this willow here? It means there's a hump of mud. Yeah, right here. This is where the bottom is hardest, right here. Right where the axe told us where the air bubbles were. So right here is the middle of the run. That's where we're gonna set it. Aspen, trembling aspen, poplar, birch, any of your hardwoods work. This is kind of the creme de la creme for them. So take your axe, and make some score marks, showing some of that white bark. Use a chainsaw, whatever. Score it up a bit. You got the light coming down, because you can see everything's got snow on it now. It's dark under there. Now with the light coming down, it'll reflect off these white parts. Beavers know that is food. So it'll attract them to here. Plus it's right where they're swimming anyway. Okay. Okay, so this is our pole. Beavers obviously chew. Now, it's going to be a snare set under the ice, but we have to assume that there's going to be more than one beaver using it, that they're going to try taking this into the house as food, because that's what it is. So what you do, you take your wire, start, this is going to be my bottom. So what you do is you wrap the wire right at the bottom, make sure it's nice and snug there, so that it doesn't roll around on it. Okay, and then take your wire, just kind of wrap it around the tree, right up to the surface. It's tangled here. Now what this does is that if a beaver decides to chew without getting caught, or when he's caught, or any of that stuff, and just wrap it for time being right up here. Okay, he has a wire from the bottom all the way above the ice now that he cannot chew through. So as long as it's anchored here, he can chew through the tree in the middle, and all of our snares, everything are going to come up with the piece that's above and that piece below. So you have to run a wire. A lot of guys will use a dead tree and then wire a green one on. You can do that too. I just prefer using a green one only, just less work. Okay, now it's time to set some snares in it. So, now there's a million different snares you can use. Check what you're allowed to use, all that stuff. In Saskatchewan, we're allowed to use anything as long as it holds the animal down. So these are my deer breakaways I use for my coyotes. Okay, you can use any kind of snare. These just work nice for beaver. So unroll them all. There's also, guys, if you buy 1x19, I think it's 1/8 cable, and you pull 3 or 4 of the strands off, 4 feet long, roll them up. You can make snares out of that too. Real cheap. 4 feet gives you 6 snares, and that stuff's, you know, $12 for 100 feet or whatever. These are a couple bucks each, but whatever. So then, cut the feet of wire. And what you want to do now is you want to run the wire through your lead end there. I want about a 10-inch loop or so for beavers. So now I start wrapping the wire on the snare. You can see I'm holding it here so it doesn't twist the snare all up. And you just basically are supporting the snare now with this. Till you get there, and it gives you your 10-inch loop. Now, with this end, run it through the opposite way, back through your eyelet. Now, no matter how hard that snare gets pulled, it will not unthread that wire. Okay? So now you have your snare. Now, I forgot one thing. You gotta do is you gotta check your thickness of your ice and your depth of your water. So you put the snare pole down, jam it in where it's gonna be set, pull it out. Now you have your water line, and I know we've got 8 inches ice or so. So about here is the ice, this much is water. So now what I'm going to do is start attaching the snares onto it. Where did I just put? There you go. Yeah, come over here and zoom in on this part. So now what you can do is, some guys run snare, snare, snare. Some guys use 3. A line this way as a pair, or a triple. However you want to do it, it's up to you. So here's my water line, 8 inches down. Here's my first snare. I want it about 6 inches or so away from the tree. Now you take your snare and you wrap this wire around, over, and under, so it cinches it as many times as you can, and then start doing this again, all the way out here. So what this does now is it gives you basically 2 16-inch gauge or 16 gauge support wires. This one you can just bend backwards. Okay? And now you have a snare that does not move easily. Muskrats can swim by it. Fish, if you're in a place that has fish, can bump it and everything. You see, preloads itself again, and that gives you all the fine tuning you want. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, one on this side, another one here, another one here. There's going to be 4 snares on this pole. I'll set that up and I'll show you.
You're good.
Okay, just last minute little changes. I could have squashed these up and put 6 on here, but we'll put 4. Okay, so you can see what she looks like. Nothing fancy. There's their food, there's the snares. Okay, so now we go to the hole. I know that they're swimming from the house this direction. So put the snares down right there in the center of the run. Push it in as far as you can. Now, you have to assume, probably not going to happen with a chainsaw running and axes and everything, but you have to assume that the beaver is going to come out in 10 minutes and get caught, in which case you can obviously pull that right down. So to do, to keep everything in place and secure, is you wire this to a stick across the hole, like so. Okay? Now that holds it up, supports it, and also gives you a little extra so that he can't take off. Now all of this that we had before, now this does, is you also use it as a double. Okay? And off you go. Now I don't do a ton of under ice beavers, but I will tell you, and you talk to any guy who does trap beavers, it is not uncommon for a beaver to stick his head up and swim down right away. They will come out to see what you're doing occasionally, and you actually will have a beaver literally right in front of you. So you have to assume that you're going to catch one now before the ice freezes. We're minus 12 right now, Matt, give or take.
About that.
And it's supposed to be warming up, it's supposed to be like high of +2 in a couple days. So you have to assume that there's not going to be any ice. When it's 40 below, in 15 minutes, that sucker's solid already. But in the warmer temperatures, back yourself up like that. So that's basically your first set. We're going to put a second one there, and then that's it. Now, I try to clear out as much of the slush as possible. When you come back to check in a couple days, beavers under the ice, whatever your check law is, use a full amount. A, they don't rot. It takes a long time to rot a beaver. And B, they don't move a lot in the winter. So don't come here every day. You just spook the beavers. If you have a 3-day check law, come every 3rd day. If you got a week is fine. I wouldn't go past a week, because if you do catch one today, in a week it might be getting pretty sour under there. But otherwise, check as long as apart as you possibly can on beavers, because they don't move a lot. Okay, so standing on top of the house, you got that set in, and I was wrong. It's all sticks under there. There's no channel through there. I looked on both sides and it's just sticks everywhere. So we're gonna see if Feedpal comes around here. There should be a trail where they're swimming, and then around or out to a bank run or whatever right there. So we'll cut that one open and see what happens. Okay, so Our water line is this deep on this one. So we've got 6 snares on this. Same thing, we've got some score marks on it, shine. This one isn't a wide run, but it's a definite run. There's an actual channel there and everything. So I'm going to set her in there, and good. There she is, right here in the center. Alright. The trick is, see how these holes are nice and clean? If you use a spud or an axe, you're going to be sitting scooping for a week. Some guys will take their shovels, take an aluminum grain shovel, drill a bunch of holes in it, ice scoops for your ice fishing, whatever. Clear that slush out of there. When you put your snares in, if they hit chunks of ice, they'll actually start closing themselves and mess everything up. And the other nice thing is now is this ice will freeze clear, and when you come in to check, you're going to see air bubbles all the time, but when it's like white with air, you are pretty much guaranteed you got a catch under there. So that's another nice thing. Also, chainsaw, you make the hole much bigger than it's actually necessary, because when you come to check, you're going to be chopping along the edge, and you never get right to the edge, and that hole keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you get lazy. Instead of cutting out to here, you'll only cut out to here, and eventually, now that you're taking the snow off of it, it's going to freeze hard and thick fast. So after 3-4 checks, out comes the saw again, open the hole up bigger and normal size, and then you're good to go again. So we're in place, and just going to wire it in, and we're finally done. And right now at this point in the game, trapping beavers through the ice. I was telling one guy yesterday, walk 10 miles into town, uphill in the snow, go to the liquor store, buy a case of beer, take all the beer, pour it on the ground, walk back in, sell your empties, walk 10 miles back home. That's beaver trapping. Lots and lots of work for not a lot of money. But I need a couple beavers here anyway, so that's why I'm setting. I ain't doing it for the money, because there ain't nothing in it right now. So we'll check these in a few days and see what happens.